No, there's a lady bleeding terribly. Okay, how does she look like she's been shot?
He stood at the altar as the best man, the groom's childhood best friend, the ultimate symbol of loyalty. But 4 years later, he would walk into their kitchen with an 8-inch chef's knife to slaughter the woman who tried to save him. In Raleigh, North Carolina, Jamie and Nation Hahn were unstoppable. She was a brilliant political consultant. He was a rising star in advocacy. And right beside them was Jonathan Broyhill. John and Nation grew up together at church camp. They were practically brothers. So when John fell on hard times, the Hahns did what family does. Jamie hired him to manage the finances at her firm, Sky Blue Strategies. Then tragedy struck. John announced he had terminal pancreatic cancer. The Hahns were devastated. They drove him to appointments, bought his groceries, and loved him through his final days. But John didn't have cancer. What he did have was a $46,000 secret. Federal election auditors were closing in on a congressional campaign account John managed. Over $46,000 was completely gone, stolen by John. On April 22, 2013, Jamie sat down at her kitchen table. She had scheduled a meeting for the next morning to look at the missing funds. She was finally asking the right questions. John knew his web of lies was about to collapse. That afternoon, John packed an overnight bag, but he didn't pack clothes. He packed an 8-inch chef's knife. He drove to the Hahn's house under the guise of wanting to talk. Inside the kitchen, while Nation was upstairs, John attacked Jamie from behind. He stabbed the woman who had clothed and fed him over 40 times. Hearing her screams, Nation rushed downstairs, fighting his best friend barehanded to save his wife, suffering severe defensive wounds in the process. Nation survived. Tragically, Jamie did not. She passed away 2 days later.
When did you start telling people that?
2 weeks ago, I guess. 3 weeks ago.
During his trial, the defense claimed John was suicidal and snapped. But the prosecution proved cold, hard premeditation. The fake cancer, the bought knife, the stolen money. In March 2015, a jury found Jonathan Broyhill guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
You can't cut her spirit out with that knife. And you couldn't stop her love for you even if you tried.
A best man who brought absolute worst-case horror